Galatians 4:4 says, "But when the right time came, God sent his son." At the right time. What was the right time in God's eyes? Luke 2:6. "The time came for her baby to be born. She gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him snugly in strips of cloth, laid him in a manger because there was no lodging available to them." Or no room in the inn, we've heard many times. And these two things don't seem to add up. At the right time, God sent his son, and the right time seems to have been the worst possible time for Mary and Joseph. Anyways, the scene is portrayed in Luke 2:7, so familiar to us, become unmistakable. See all kinds of presentations of what people think it was like. Paintings or plays. Usually the setting is quite pastoral. Mary and Joseph watching contentedly as Jesus sleeps in a clean wooden feeding trough. Sometimes there's a glowing light emanating from baby Jesus. The straw is fresh. Overhead the stars twinkle in the sky. Nearby the cattle are lowing. We sang today. That sounds nice. Sheep rest contentedly. The faithful donkey watches the happy parents. And little Lord Jesus, no crying he makes. Very often the shepherds and the wise men bow before the baby in the manger. It's a sweet, beautiful scene. We made our own, put it outside there every year, and gave it a touch-up this year. It looks nice. Good job, guys. It's also dangerous. Not only dangerous because you're not allowed to do that anymore. Might offend somebody. I mean, what has baby Jesus done to you, random offended person? Don't you know the Lord? He's not even crying. He's not even crying. I mean, if he's crying and making a fuss, okay, this is remarkable for a newborn, but little Lord Jesus, no crying he makes. But ooh, we don't want to see baby Jesus at Christmas time. Get him out of here. But the real problem with the manger scene lies not in any supposed offense, but in the fact that the scene probably bears little connection to how it really was. It was busy. It was crowded. It was dirty, smelly, most likely. Probably it wasn't peaceful. It couldn't have been clean or comfortable. Shepherds come to visit just to add to the smell. It's bad enough we're out here in the stable, right, with the animal muck, and now you guys come and add a layer. Who invited the shepherds? Oh yeah, God did. God invited the shepherds. My son is born. Come and bear witness. This was the right time, and these were the right guests in God's eyes. And we can dress it up all we want, but the reality is we feel a little embarrassed for God, don't we? Like, really, God? This was the right time? This was the best you could do for your son? You could have done better. He certainly had the ability to have done better. This was not, oops. God wasn't like, oh, gee, I didn't plan that out very well. Sorry, Jesus. I thought there would be room at the inn. Guess you'll just have to make do with the barn. My bad. And the thought came to me, if that was a saying back then, Jesus would have a good comeback. Like, where's your manners? Were you born in a barn? And Jesus was, well, matter of fact, funny story. God never says, my bad. God never makes a mistake. And so we have questions, or maybe just one question, why? Why, God? From our point of view, the King of Kings should not have been born in a stable, but he was. Surely this was not an accident, but a message from God to our hearts. How did the birth site really look? I don't know for sure, but in Jesus' day, Bethlehem was a tiny Jewish town, small, out-of-the-way village, one of the least important towns in all of Judah. One writer called it a hamlet. A few shepherds lived there, maybe some farmers, a few merchants. That was about it. Famous only because it was King David's hometown. And you know the story. Caesar Augustus decides to take a census because taxes, rulers and their taxes, am I right? Now, every male has to travel back to their hometown to be registered. Seriously? Like, there isn't a better way to do this? Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. But God needed Jesus to be born in Bethlehem because that's the way he planned it. So he just is lining everything up. Caesar suddenly wants more tax. Mary is on the verge of giving birth. Joseph is compelled to go to Bethlehem, and Jesus is born. Just like God promised hundreds of years earlier in Micah 5:2. But you, O Bethlehem, Ephrathah, are only a small village among all the people of Judah, yet a ruler of Israel, whose origins are in the distant past, will come from you on my behalf. Okay, fine. Jesus is supposed to be born in Bethlehem, but why couldn't he be born in the inn? When we read inn, we think hotel, a nice building near a freeway, 3 or 4 stories, nice parking lot, large lobby, a pool, a hot tub, vending machine on every floor, showers, TV, free Wi-Fi. For us, roughing it is when the Wi-Fi doesn't work. What's with these hotel Wi-Fis? I can't get my PlayStation hooked up. The weekend's ruined. Of course, there were no such comforts in those days. Travel was dirty, difficult, dangerous. An inn was a simple building with you could rest during the night, indoor plumbing not part of the picture, internet 20 centuries in the future. Luke used 2 different words for inn when he wrote his gospel. One word refers to a small building that was dedicated to serving travelers, like maybe just a common room with mattresses on the floor, a fire, stable with fodder for the animals. That's where the Good Samaritan took the traveler. When you think of the Good Samaritan took him to an inn, that's the inn he took him to. The word for inn in our text, in this Luke 2, basically means a guest room. Stable that was often a cave just in a hillside with a low rock wall to keep the animals from wandering away. This was the inn that Jesus could not get into, had no room for Mary and Joseph. And why were they turned away? Probably there really was no room. You couldn't call ahead. You couldn't reserve a room online. Maybe they were too poor to pay. Maybe the innkeeper didn't want a very pregnant woman possibly giving birth with whatever other guests he had in whatever small room he had available. Any way you look at it, it was really a callous way to treat Mary. She may have already been in the beginnings of labor. It doesn't say. The only thing we know for certain is there's no room for them. Everything else is conjecture. But from a human point of view, this seems wrong. God could have made sure there was room in the inn. But we have to believe this is what he wanted. And so what can we learn about this from God? First of all, it's a powerful message. In fact, it speaks to a lot of things, but it shows us the absolute humility of Jesus Christ. Philippians 2, though he was God, he did not think equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being. When he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on a cross. And it wasn't just his death on the cross that showed his humility, it was also his birth. He wasn't born in a palace. Like, how many rich people would consent to this? Some rich dude told, there's no room in the home here. Your wife's going to have to give birth out in the barn. Can you imagine the outrage? Do you know who I am? Some other person can go in the barn. I'm going in the room. Before he was even born, Jesus was modeling, think of others ahead of yourself. God wasn't flaunting anything, and it's always been that way. He's not showing off as much as we would like him to sometimes, wouldn't we? Like, just show people how great you are. God doesn't show off. He rewards those who seek him. You got to look a little. He's not writing his name in lights. You got to find him. Jesus never said, do you know who I am, in a haughty tone. God doesn't need to do that. And to this day, many still don't know who he is. There's also foreshadowing here. The birthplace of Jesus wasn't that far removed in appearance to the tomb they would later lay him in. But it also tells us he's a king of the people. We commend a leader who's sympathetic and in touch with the common person. Jesus went even further than that. He was born in abject poverty. by appearances at least. Mary and Joseph are young. Mary is a teenager, not sure about Joseph. Who believes Mary wasn't fooling around before getting married? Who believes Joseph when he says, "It wasn't me, just some stupid kids"? Does he have a job? I don't know. I know they can't get a room in the inn. But these people, these poor people, perhaps, are the people God chose to parent his son. He could have chose some ruler, some king with a daughter to have a son, but he didn't. He chose perhaps these poor people, and the people he invited to the scene to witness his newborn son, Jesus Christ, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the poorest of the poor. The last people invited to any banquet, the shepherds out in the fields. And it makes my heart burn a little bit when I see preachers and evangelists and so-called men of God flaunting their riches as if this is what God is all about. And it makes me a little angry when people flock to their meetings hoping to get a piece of the blessing of God, because that's not Jesus. This is Jesus. We need to look at him a little bit more closely. He emptied himself. He humbled himself. He agreed to the Father's plan, and he came to us as the poorest of the poor, even to be born in a dirty little stable. And if you listen, you can hear him calling. Matthew 11, Jesus said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. Come to me, weary sinners. Come to me, poor and outcast. Come to me, disillusioned and disheartened. Hear his voice through the prophet Isaiah. Is anyone thirsty? Come and drink. Even if you have no money, that don't matter. Come, take your choice of wine or milk. It's all free. Why spend your money on food that does not give you strength? Why pay for food that does you no good? Listen to me, and you will eat what is good. You will enjoy the finest food. Come to me with your ears wide open. Listen, and you will find life. And I will make an everlasting covenant with you, and I will give you the unfailing love I promised to David." And the writer of Hebrews encourages us, "So then, since we have a great high priest who has entered heaven, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold firmly to what we believe. This high priest of ours understands our weakness, for he faced all the same testings we do, yet he did not sin. So let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God. There we will receive mercy, and we will find grace to help us when we need it most." And we sang that song today. It's a great song. We haven't sung it in a while, but I wanted to sing it today because this is the message today. Are you hurting and broken within? Overwhelmed by the weight of your sin? Jesus is calling. Have you come to the end of yourself? Do you thirst for a drink from the well? Jesus is calling. Do you find this life not satisfying? Come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Leave behind your regrets and mistakes. Come today. There's no reason to wait, because Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. Bring your sorrows and trade them for joy. From the ashes, a new life is born. Jesus is calling. Hear him, O weary sinner. Hear him, down and outcast. Hear him, disillusioned person. Hear him. He's calling. From his very birth, he was announcing, you can come to him. If you had been there, there would be and had no other information. You would have concluded this was just a baby born to a poor young couple down on their luck. There's no halos. There's no angels singing. Not there anyways, no choirs. not at the sight of his birth. To the unseeing eye, nothing looks less like God. But to those who understand, God's fingerprints are everywhere. And herein we find comfort, because God uses adverse circumstances that make no sense at the time in order to accomplish his purposes in the future. Here is the proof of Romans 8:28, that God works all things together for the good of those who love him and are called according to the purposes. I won't belabor the point. Nothing about this would have been convenient and enjoyable to Mary and Joseph. Humanly, this is a disaster. The whole thing. We got to travel. I'm at the end of my trimester. I'm like 9 months, Joseph. I'm sorry, Mary. Caesar said we got to go to Bethlehem. We got to go. Couple weeks journey. They get there. Mary, I'm sorry. I can't even find a room in an inn. We got to... and baby Jesus born. Nothing about this is convenient or good. How could they have foreseen this was part of God's good plan? Life is like that. We don't know what's coming around the corner, and many of the things that we endure make no sense. And sometimes they make no sense for years, and sometimes they never make sense. We can all share stories of hardship that we don't understand, but we're all trusting that God has a plan in it all. And I take great comfort in the fact that God knows what he's doing. And he uses everything that happens to us to accomplish his purpose in us and through us and for us, and nothing is wasted. Notice this too, Luke 2:7. She gave birth to her firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddling cloths, laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. We truncate it. There was no room in the inn. But that isn't entirely what it says. It says there is no place for them in the inn. We don't need to read too much into it. It may be there was no room for anybody, but maybe there was room for someone else, just not for them. The New Living Translation says there is no lodging available for them. And that could be a nice way of saying you're not welcome here, or you can't afford it, maybe. But secondly, there was no room for them. Not just Jesus, Mary and Joseph as well. And there's a sort of symbol in that. They partook in Jesus' suffering. They are also outside the inn when Jesus is born. What happened to him happened to them. And many years later, Jesus challenged his disciples by saying this: if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. We share in his suffering. Or as Peter puts it, dear friends, don't be surprised at the fiery trial you're going through as if something strange were happening to you. Instead, be very glad, for these trials make you partners with Christ in his suffering, so that you will have wonderful joy of seeing his glory when it's revealed to all the world. There was no room for them in the inn. He didn't deserve that. He didn't belong in a stable. But God ordained it so. God chose that moment and that place and those circumstances to give us a king who was poor and outcast, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, the word tells us, a friend of sinners, a king we can identify with. He didn't sit upon a gilded throne looking down to us. He came in the humblest possible way so that even the least of us would actually be looking down to him. He humbled himself to the lowest of places so that we could know that all of us are invited and all of us are accepted and all of us are included. Whoever wants to can come to Jesus Christ. There's no gatekeeping here. Not from God anyway. And so I say again to all who are weary and disillusioned and discouraged, come to Jesus. Don't come to Christianity. Don't come to the church. Come to Jesus. His arms are open wide. Come and drink of the life he gives freely and without cost. If you come to Jesus, he will never leave you, never forsake you. He's not looking down at you. He's looking up to you. He's pouring out his life for you. He's lifting you up. You won't be disappointed in him. And as I was writing this, I really felt like God wanted me to hammer this down for someone. Don't blame Jesus for Christianity. And don't blame Jesus for the church. Don't lose your soul over what people have done. Save your soul by what Jesus has done. Just look at Jesus. He lived out every word he said. Born in a manger, died on a cross, befriended outcasts and sinners, was harsh with hypocritical religious leaders, lived out every word. There is no fault in Jesus. The fault's with me. And every one of us who try to follow but fail spectacularly. The fault lies in rules that sound pious but don't draw us close to God's love and grace. The fault is in greedy religious people who love money and power more than they love people. That's not Jesus. Come to Jesus. His arms are open wide. He's calling you right now. Just say yes. And I say to we who have tasted and know that the Lord is good, God's ways don't always make sense to us. We know this full well. And we're called to share in his suffering. There's no fine print. It's there as plain as day. Sometimes there's going to be trials. Sometimes people are going to dislike you and be rude. But the end result is for God's glory and for our good. So let's follow Jesus. Because at the right time, God does whatever he wants. And whatever he wants is good. Let's pray.